seconds.
Is this where the damn drumming and the music kicks in?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, good morning, good midday, depending on when you're listening to this. I hope you're having a good one. Hello, this is On the Pipe Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tyler Shepherdson, and today is Tuesday, August the 30th, 2022, years after zero, but even more so than that, today is day number 2 of the 2022 ISDE, the International 6 Days Enduro, and we're here to give you an update on day number 2, how things panned out, how things are shaking up, and keeping you, the OTP listeners, in the know of what is going on at this year's ISDE. Last year, we typed all this stuff up. I don't know how many people actually read it. It's a lot easier to just click on this and let it play throughout your workday. So here we are, day number 2. Here we go. If you are new to On the Pipe Podcast, hey, welcome. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. You may or may not know that Beta Motorcycles is the official manufacturer of On the Pipe Podcast. That is this one, the one that you're listening to, OTP. Beta Motorcycles has been family-owned and operated since 1905. They manufacture the finest enduro, trials, and dual sport motorcycles that are known for their premium quality and rideability. You guessed it. Beta motorcycles are the best looking bikes on the market, and they back it up with their superior performance. Head over to betausa.com for more information on their available models or to find a dealer near you to get yours today. So Beta's been with us for this year. It's awesome working with them. They also have awesome bikes. Head over to betausa.com, check it out. Check out their warranty on a dirt bike. Who else puts a warranty on a dirt bike? I don't know, but Beta Motorcycles does. You can also order it with the parts you want already on it. You can get your suspension tuned for you so you can get it out of the crate with your suspension. It's pretty cool. betausa.com. This episode, as always, is also brought to you in part by Zach Tussle at Raymond James Financial. Zach is a racer and a financial advisor that helps his clients win when it comes to retirement and financial planning. If you or someone you know wants to save and invest for their future or is already retired and needs advice for income during retirement, Zach Tussle is always my first recommendation. Find out more by Googling Zach Tussle or on their website at financialadvisors.denvernc.com. So Zach Tussle is a racer just like you, just like me, and he's also a financial planner at Raymond James. So hit him up on the socials, send him an email, check out their website, do whatever you need to do. Just make sure that you are planning for your financial future and make sure you are doing that with Zachary Tussle. With that being said, let's get right into it, shall we? Let's talk about what's going on. Before we get into results, I just want to do a little quick course on the ISDE. I know it's a foreign thing to a lot of people, and so just kind of wanted to go over a little bit of it first, kind of an ISDE for dummies if you're not too familiar with it. I have become familiar with it by just trying to follow it each year and not knowing what in the world was going on, so just kind of doing some digging and figuring out what to talk about and how this whole thing works. So maybe some of this stuff might help you. This year, there's 6 days of racing every year. I was saying this year for the next point. Obviously, the International 6 Days Enduro, there's 6 days. This year, this is where I was at. Day number 1, day number 2, day number 3, day number 4, day number 5 all have 5 special tests. So the whole Sprint Enduro Coming to America thing, full gas, Sprint Enduro, was the first, the original, the premier Sprint Enduro series in America. Now, it is no coincidence that all of a sudden, once full gas Sprint Enduro existed, America's success at the ISDE each year continued to improve. We saw our first 2 overall winners ever. We saw 2 World Trophy teams win gold. We saw a Junior Trophy team win gold. We saw a Women's Trophy team win gold. And that is because before the Full Gas Sprint Enduro Series happened, there was no race series that mimicked the ISDE. So if you've been to a Full Gas Sprint Enduro and you've seen the special tests that they lay out, the cross test or the enduro test, in between the banners and quick sprints that you're racing against the clock, that is the way that the entire week at ISDE is set up, except for the last day. So this year they're doing 5 special tests a day, but it's not as simple as showing up to a full gas and riding a lap, going back to your truck, riding another lap, going back to your truck. There's actually you have to navigate from the paddock where everyone is at in the staging area and ride to the special test. So that is why you look at the race time totals for the top guys, it's around 30 minutes, a little bit more than 30 minutes. But they're on their bikes for 8 hours a day. That's because you're riding from the paddock all the way to the start of the first special test, and then you're riding to the start of the next special test. And there's a lot of time and a lot of distance that goes in between that, and sometimes in years past, or maybe even this year coming up, those transfer sections can be longer and gnarlier than what you're actually racing on. So that is the way that day number 1 through day number 5 is. You have 5 special tests each day that are counted and scored, but the timing from getting test to test is a big part of it too, because you have to make sure you're at that test on time or else you can get penalized. So that is how that works. On the 6th and final day, the final moto happens. So they actually do a full-blown moto where everyone's out there racing against each other, banging bars and doing all that stuff. So that is how the week turns out. You got 5 special tests, and then on the final day, you have a moto with everyone in it, and that decides your overall winner. You can only work on your bikes. So first of all, it's important to note that mechanics cannot work on the bikes at all. Yes, all the mechanics are over there and they're helping out. They can do things like prep stuff. They can get stuff prepped. They can put mousses in tires and lube them up. They can put air filter oil on air filters and have them ready to go. They can put clutch packs in oil and have it sitting there ready to go, but they cannot work on the bike. I believe that mechanics can change the oil. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's how it used to be. They can change the oil, but outside of that, and filling up with fuel, mechanics can't do anything. It is the rider's responsibility to work on their own machine. It's the rider's responsibility to change their own tires. It's the rider's responsibility to fix a problem should a problem occur. If your clutches are slipping, you need a new clutch, then guess what? You got to put that new clutch in. If your bars are bent, guess what? You got to change your handlebars. But, oh, hey, by the way, there's only a very limited amount of time that they can work on their bikes as well. And that amount of time is 15 minutes before the start of the first test. So 15 minutes before the start of the first test, you can go into the paddock because the FIM takes everyone's bikes and they lock them up in a fence, essentially. And so you cannot touch your bike. And if it's pouring down rain, then that's where your bike is. If it's bright and sunny, that's where your bike is. But at the end of each day, you have to turn your bike in there, or before the event even begins, you have to turn your bike in there. The morning of the race, 15 minutes before your start time, you can go into the paddock and you can remove your bike and then you can work on it. You have 15 minutes to work on the bike, do everything that's needed to be done, and then at the end of the day, you have 15 minutes as well. So that's when you see them coming in to the paddock at the end of the day, throwing the bike on the stand, taking the wheel off, changing the tires, usually using a tire changing machine. That's when all that stuff happens, and it's a very short window, and it's a very small amount of time, and that is why you see everyone practicing changing tires and seeing how fast they can do it, because at the ISDE, the riders have to do it themselves, and they have to do it in a timely manner to keep everything rolling. If you want to see some videos of some stuff, Lance with XC Gear is posting some really good videos from over there. There's an XC Gear club team, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, But Lance is the owner of XC Gear. I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you know all about Lance and you know all about XC Gear. But he's posting some cool behind-the-scenes stuff that kind of explains how some of this works as well. Or you can take what I'm saying and go look at it and see for yourself of what we're talking about. Some other rules that I want to get to, the junior trophy team. The reason is the junior trophy team is because there's an age limit on it. So the junior trophy team has to be under 23 years old. So that's why we saw a lot of our junior guys that have aged out of it. Grant Baylor, Josh Toth, who else? Anyone that's more than 23 years old. They've now aged out of the junior trophy team class. But then as you're looking through results, you also see all the different classes within the classes. You see E1, E2, and E3. So each one of those are their own different class. It's kind of like 250A and Open A, that kind of thing. So E1 is a 250cc motorcycle. It can be a 2-stroke or a 4-stroke. So the E1 class, you have to be on a 252-stroke or a 254-stroke. In the E2 class, it is a 255 to 450cc 4-stroke. So it can't be a 250 unless it has a big bore kit on it and it's over 255 cc's. But that's where your 350s come in at. That's where your 390s come in at. That's where your 450s come in at. So it just has to be a sorry, I lost my track for a minute, but just has to be within 255 cc's and 450 cc's 4-stroke machine in the E2 class. In the E3 class, it has to be a 255 and up 2-stroke or over a 455 4-stroke. So this is kind of the weird class. This is kind of the class that gets hard, that gets challenging, because you can either ride a 300 2-stroke or a board over 250 2-stroke. It just has to be over 255 cc's or an over 455 4-stroke. So that's where you have your 480s, your 490s, your 500s. Taylor Robert in years past chooses that 500. And honestly, I don't know what bike our E3 rider is riding. I should know that, but I'll find out and definitely let you know tomorrow. But those are some of the rules that are set forth. That is a little bit how the ISDE works. So maybe we answered a question that you might have had. Maybe we filled you in on some information. But that is how it works. Speaking of tomorrow, I'm going to get you who's riding what bikes. But then also, tomorrow will be the first very special episode. We will have Josh Stang on the show with us tomorrow. Josh Stang is an ISDE world champion for Team Australia. We're going to look past that. He's got dual citizenship. He's been in America about as long as he was in Australia at this point, but he's going to come on the show. He's going to chat with us, let us know his favorite. I will tell you, just talking back and forth with him and playing some Call of Duty and seeing the stuff that he's posting on Instagram and sending. Josh loves the ISDE. He loves talking about it. He loves being a part of it. And so I think it'll be really cool to have him come on and share some of his experiences, and also obviously knows a lot of the folks that are out there racing, from racing against the other countries in years past, plus the Team Australia guys, the Team America guys, obviously he's racing with out here all the time. So tomorrow it'll be myself and Josh Stang going over the day 3 results, so make sure you don't miss that. That'll be a fun conversation to go over. But today, let's go over the day 2 results. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is read how the results were in day number 2 as a whole, and then we will go to the overall, so the cumulative for the week. Finishing out the day today in the number 4 spot overall is Dante Oliveira, which a big key from Dante throughout today. We mentioned yesterday, Josep Garcia won every single test of the day. Dante Oliveira came out and won the first test outright. So he was your fastest rider in the first test overall, which took that streak away from Josep Garcia. But it didn't take it away for very long because Josep won the next 4 tests straight. So Josep is now 9-1 in 10 tests at the ISDE this year. But Dante Oliveira, He's got the win. He's got the one win. He did it this morning, starting things off bright and early. So Dante Oliveira ends the day 4th place overall on day number 2. Caleb Russell, we saw that video of him going through the trees and swapping out yesterday. That is so sketchy. Glad he was able to keep that under him. I have a video of him and Thad going through a whoop section in Florida where it was like a swap out that was similar to that one. But, yeah, gnarly video, especially for a dude that's out there riding with a freshly torn ACL. But Caleb Russell putting his head down, getting it done. 14th place on the day today. Lane Michael in that 17th spot on the day today on that Yamaha. Cool to see him up there running with the boys as well. And then Josh Toth just behind in that 20th spot. So Josh Toth's time for the day is going to be the one that gets dropped. In the World Trophy, there's 4 riders, and the top 3 scores count each day. So one rider is able to drop their score. So that is the way that it shook out today. That puts Dante Oliveira in the 6th place spot overall. So the cumulative time after day 1 and day number 2, Dante Oliveira currently sits in the number 6 spot. Caleb Russell is sitting in the 13th spot overall for the week. And then Lane Michael is 21st overall for the week. And Josh Toth is 23rd overall for the week. So those are the individual standings today. A big noteworthy thing is that the United Kingdom, Team UK, took over the World Trophy team lead. So they overtook Team Spain. Actually, Team Spain drops back to number 3. So the United Kingdom puts in some work across the board. They move into the number 1 spot. In number 2 now is Team Italy. And like we mentioned, Team Spain drops to number 3 on the day. And then the United States remain in that 4th place spot. So Team UK is in the lead. Team Italy moves into the number 2 spot. They're a minute and 24 seconds back from the lead. And then you got Team Spain that is just 5 seconds behind them. So a minute and a half out of the lead is Team Spain. And then we are a minute and a half back from that for Team USA. So Team USA just a hair over 3 minutes from the overall lead and a minute and a half from the podium position. But, I mean, we're still early. We're 2 days into a 6-day race. And so days 1 and 2, they run the same course. So days 1 and 2, they were at the same places. They were running the same tracks. They might have ran them backwards, but it was the same days for day 1 and 2. Day 3 and 4, we go to completely different tracks, completely different sections, and so it's going to be a completely different day. So that will be one to keep our eye on going forward. Hopefully there's some trees in there. From what I've noticed on the international scale, we tend to do better with some trees due to the type of racing that everyone does over here in America, and more specifically on the East Coast. So we'll see how the rest of the week pans out. We'll see how the rest of the terrain pans out. But that is the way that things look for our World Trophy team. Now we're going to move down to our Junior Trophy team and talk about these fellers that we got going on over there. Mateo Oliveira and Austin Walton are the lone Junior Trophy team riders. As we mentioned yesterday, Cody Barnes had an very unfortunate mechanical issue that forced him to retire from the event. Early on into day number 1, a blown stator that wasn't working properly was the cause for that. So unfortunately, that does a number on the Junior Trophy team for their overall standings. As we mentioned, the World Trophy team, they have 4 riders and they drop 1 score each day. The Junior Trophy team does not have that luxury. They have 3 riders, and all 3 scores count. Austin Walton putting in an excellent day of his own today. He was actually the number 2 Junior Trophy rider on day number 2, which was pretty cool. And Mateo Oliveira was the number 6 Junior Trophy rider on the day. And then they were both 17th and 30th place overall. So solid rides from Austin Walton and Mateo Oliveira. And the way that Cody Barnes has been riding this year, I wish that we would see him in there because I think our Junior Trophy team would be right there, probably in the lead, and if not, right there in the hunt. But Right now, in the lead in the junior trophy classifications, it is Team Italy that currently leads the way. Team Finland is in that number 2 spot, just 10 seconds back. And then Team Australia, Team Oz, they are in the number 3 spot in the junior trophy class. About a minute, just under a minute outside of the overall lead, which means around 50 seconds outside of that number 2 spot. So that is the way that the junior trophy class looks. As we move down to our women's trophy. And this is where it gets interesting because Brandy Richards is doing what I mean, can't be many people have done it, if anybody has done it. But she won every single test of the 2021 ISDE. Every test. She won it. She comes back out 2022, day number 1. She wins every single test of the day. And you know what she went and did today? She went and won every single test today again. So Brandy Richards, clearly your overall leader in the women's trophy division because nobody's beat her in a single test. So she's actually running first place in the women's trophy and 94th place overall. So she's in the top 100 riders overall, which is pretty damn impressive. Corey Steed ends the day today in the number 4 spot, or 118th overall, and then Rachel Guttish on the day was 13th place overall, or 13th place in the women's trophy team, 129 overall. Also just wanted to point out, not an American, she's a Canadian, but Shelby Turner is over racing for Team Canada. She put in a good ride today. 5th place on day number 2 for Shelby Turner. So she's right there in the mix as well. We've seen Shelby racing GNCCs this year. We've seen her racing some hard enduro stuff this year. We've seen her racing some sprint enduros this year. We've seen her racing some national enduros this year. And now she's representing Team Canada over at the ISDE. So she's like extended family, like a lot of the Aussies and some other people that end up riding for other countries. But so just wanted to point that out. Shelby sitting in the number 5 spot at the end of the day today. Yeah. So I think that's where we're at. It's really hard to talk about a race that's happening on the other side of the world that I am not there for. So I'm trying to bring you guys the most engaging content that we can. Definitely giving you an update, letting you know what is going on. So I guess you can follow along that way. But I appreciate you listening. Appreciate you being here. We're going to do a show every single night this week to let you know what is going on. Unfortunately, I'm trying to get more scoops. I'm trying to get more insider knowledge. I reached out to a couple people that are over there, so hopefully we can get them on the show where they got actual boots on the ground to see what's going on over there. So hopefully we hear back from them and we can get those folks on the show tomorrow. We will have Josh Stang on the show to hear about some of his past experiences with the ISDE, and then we'll go over some results after that. But thank you for listening. As always, be a friend, tell a friend, and don't forget to subscribe to OTP wherever you're listening to this at. It goes a long way in helping me out, and it also lets you know when shows get released. That way you can see them first. I kind of got to the point where I'm not even posting them on social media anymore. I kind of just put the shows out, and the dedicated listeners, the people that are listening to the shows, they happen upon them and they see them. But yeah, I really haven't been advertising, and the numbers keep growing. The amount of people that are downloading it keeps growing to the point where it doesn't even make sense anymore. I quit trying to make sense of it. I don't know why so many of you listen, but I appreciate the fact that you do. I appreciate all the feedback. I appreciate all the support. And you know what? I also appreciate the people that listen for ulterior motives, and the people that would never in a million years admit that they listen to the show, but we know you're listening to the show. So welcome to the show. Appreciate you guys as well, because your downloads count towards my stats just like everybody else's. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry these aren't the most exciting shows ever, but I think it'll be cool the rest of the week, especially when we get some more people on. Tune in tomorrow, day number 3, Josh Strang, OTP. Peace out.